Hello there, interghost back with another ZX Spectruming program video, and today I'm going to do my first ever basic game program, I suppose. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing spectacular, but it really puts into practice the different commands we've been learning in the other videos. Now this program is from a book called the Osborne Computer Spy Games book, and the game we're looking at is called Searchlight. So if you want to look that book up to find out where I've got this program from, that you can. Now I'm going to do something a little different in this video. We've been using the Fuse emulator before, and that's what I've programmed the program in. So if I just open it up, so as you can see I've programmed it all in here and it runs. So I'll just show you what the game does. Now basically the idea is you're this little spy here represented by the S. There's a searchlight which turns on at the top of the screen and stays on for sort of a random amount of time. You have to use these barriers to get to one end of the screen and back again without the searchlight seeing you in the gaps. So using the keys M and N we can go across. I'll try and get to the end and back without being caught. The keys aren't very responsive, I'm not sure why. I think it's the way it's been programmed. Get across this bit, big gap. Actually works out if you've been seen in the gaps, also works out when you've reached the end of this line of obstacles. Turns on a flag, won't let you go any further, and then knows when you're coming back. And hopefully if I can get to the other end, it will show you that it will change the level when you get to the end as well. So I've just got to get past this bit. And hopefully I can get to the end and show you the level change. There we go, it jumps to the next level. Then if you get caught in the gap, it tells you that you've been seen, gives you a score and asks if you want another go. Press Y, it starts again, press anything else and it will just say goodbye and kick you out of the program. Now the difference is, this is quite hard to explain by scrolling down through this data here. Oops. So what I've done, so if I exit Fuse, I've been using this other program called Basin C, which is another emulator really, but it lets you sort of jump around in the program a lot easier and input things. It also shows you where the variables are and where to input things, and you can actually scroll up and down using the mouse. Does exactly the same thing. So if I run the game here, it's doing the same thing, and then I can stop it and it tells you where the program's stopped. So I'm going to use this just to explain it, because I've put in all these REM statements to help me along, and hopefully it's easier to scroll up and down. Bear with me, like I said, this is my first full program, and as you can see there's a lot of comments put in there because it's quite complex really. So this is the start of the program where it runs a subroutine. So straight away it jumps down to line 450 and it sets up an area to save the data into the A string, which is 7 lines and 20 characters in length. So basically we're doing this dim statement saying that string A, we want 7 things inputted and they've got to be 20 characters long. So it runs through it 7 times, saves the data into the A string using the read statement. So we use for I 1 to 7, so it runs through this bit 7 times and read into the string and set it to the 7 areas in the memory we've set here. So here's because this will read, so we'll look for the next data, and the data's down here, 480 to 540, and here's the strings it's going to add in. So this will be the first one it puts in, and it's 20 characters long, and as you can see this is the levels, and it'll read these all across and save them into that dim area. Once that's done, it returns back to the top where it sets up the colours, so green border, black paper, yellow ink. And then we're going to set up the variables at the start of the game. So A is going to be the level number, so it's level 1. S is going to be the score, so it starts off at 0. And G acts as a timer for the game, and it adds 1 even though a key hasn't been pressed. So when it runs through this program and it loops back around to the start of the level, it will add 1 every time it goes through, so it keeps a sort of timer going of how many times the program's looped through, and that works out your score at the end of the game. And it's going to clear the screen ready for the game to begin. Next we're going to print the obstacles, setting the location at the X and Y position on the screen, and setting the data using the A string and also the level number, so we know which of the levels we're loading up. And then it sets that as B string. B string is used out throughout the whole program to tell the computer where to look on the screen. So it's used for the level printing, it's used for the searchlight icon, and it's also used for the text and also where the player is. So this sort of B string command is literally sort of a pointer for the program to say what to look at to try and find out what's going on. So we're setting X to 0 and Y to 12, and this will be used to say where on the screen to print the level. And then we're going to make that B string variable equal the level, and we're on level 1. So it's saying pull that data of level 1, stick it into this B string, ready to do something with it. Jump down to subroutine 380, so further down in the programming. And here is where we're going to print the data for the level. So we're saying at that YX coordinate, so 0, which is on the far left, and then I think it was 10, wasn't it? Down here somewhere. Print that level data, so it'll print those barricades, the equal signs with the gaps, and then return back to the top. So that's printed the level. So then we're going to set a few more variables. So we're going to do an N, which is the player's position, NN, which is going to be the new position, so this is going to work out where the player's moved to, and F, which is a flag, which tells you when you've reached the end of the line in a level, and also when you've returned back to the start. So that's what that flag is. So that starts at 0, and then it's going to jump that down to subroutine 340. So we're going to set the Y position to the level data and change the B string to a blank and print the new area one line below. So what this is doing is it's setting the X to where the player is, and the Y to 13, which is one block below where the level has just been printed. And then it's going to set that B string to a blank, so it's no longer that whole level printout, it's now just a blank square. So basically it's putting you below where the level was printed, ready for the game to begin. Then it jumps to 380, which then prints that blank square underneath the level. Next we're going to do the bit which runs after that. So it sets the X value to the new position of the player, and it prints in this S. So the S is literally just it's sort of like the sprite for the spy. So this doesn't actually affect the code in any way. It just finds out if this, it just takes this S value and sticks it in the same place as where the blank is. And as you can see, when the game runs, it sort of flicks between blank and S. So this S is really just to show you, the player, where you are. And again, it runs down to 380, prints that S on the screen. Then it returns back up to where we were before. So we're setting some new variables. We got OW, C, TC and C1. The OW is tells you if the light is turned on and off, so that little star at the top. If it's on 0, the light's off. If it's on 1, the light's on. C is a counter that adds up. When the light is on, it will add, later on it will add to this counter until it reaches up to TC, which is the target counter. And so when the light's on, this will add up until it gets to this value, and once it gets that value, it will then turn the light off again. So this is just sort of working out when the light's on and off. And the C1 is the same thing, but it's when the light is off, it will add 1 to it until it reaches the value, and then it will switch it on again. But we'll get down to that in a minute. It's just setting all those values to 0 and the initial counter to 10. So next we've got the in keys. So this is looking for a key to be pressed, and once that key has been pressed, it will save it into the I string. So this is looking for your movement, so the input of N or M to move the character. Then next we got if N is pressed, it's going to -1 from your new position, so move you to the left. And then if M is pressed, it will add 1 to the new position of your character and move your character to the right. So this is sort of looking for the N or M input and then adding or subtracting 1 from that value to jump your character left or right. Then this bit in here is added in to say if you've gone too far in the level, if you've gone too far to the left or too far to the right. So it's basically saying if the new position is greater than 19, set it back to 19, so it can't go any higher than that. If it goes less than 0, then set it back to 0. So it just gives you a boundary in your level. Next line is just setting the flag. So when your character reaches the 19th position on the screen and your flag is at 0, set it to 1. So once you get to the right hand side of the level, sets the flag to 1 to know that you've reached the right hand side of the level. Then again, when you get back to the left hand side, if your flag is at 1, it then sets it to 2. So it just knows that you start at 0, get to the right, goes to 1, get back to the left, goes to 2. And then go to subroutine 340, which runs through putting your character at the position underneath where it is in the level, which is basically, it keeps running through that subroutines to make sure that your character stays at the position it should be on the level. So you know, if it jumps too far to the left and it puts it back 1, it then prints that blank square back in the level. Again, if you go too far to the right, it prints it back where it should be. So the next part is if the player has moved, add 1 to your score and let the end position equal the new position and add 1 to the timer of G. So if the end value has changed at all to the new value, then it's going to set this score value, the S variable, +1. So it just adds 1 to the score every time your character is in a new position. It then makes the new position where the position is in the program, so it knows that it's now in that new position. And the G variable adds 1 just so it knows that the time has looped around through this bit of the program, and it will add 1 every time it loops through this part of the program. And jump down to subroutine 400. Now this bit controls the light turning on, so it'll add 1 to the counter until it equals the target counter, and then it will turn the light off. TC is the random number of the target counter plus 12 minus the level number. Now what that means is, If the owl variable is 1, it means the light is on in the game, and it will have a little star at the top of the screen, which comes in a minute. So when that's the case, it will get the value of C and add 1 to it. So this is like a counter counting up. Once that C value hits the target counter value, the TC value, then it will turn the light off again. It will also reset the counter back to 0, and then it will set the new variable for the counter at a random number plus 12 minus what the level is. So as the levels go up, the quicker the timer will, the smaller the target will be, so the timer has less time for you to jump between the gaps. So basically, as the levels go on, the timer gets shorter. It then jumps back to subroutine 320, and what this does is it will blank out the star in the game. So when the star is there, the light is on. Once the light turns off, it will then print a blank over the top of that star to let you know that the light's turned off. So it will set the area to where the star is, change the B string to a blank, then jumps back to 380, which tells it to print that blank over that area, and then it returns back to where we were before. So it goes back to this part where it was looking for the light to be on. Now the light is off, so now it is 0. It will add 1 to the C1 counter, so it's the same as before. And what this is doing is exactly the same thing as checking when the light was on. It does it the same, but it uses C1 instead, counts through until it gets up to the target. Once it does that, it turns the light back on, and which jumps to 300, sorry. So when the light is triggered to come on, it then sets that area again, changes the B string to a star, goes to 380, which prints that star in that area, and then jumps back down to the counter bit. And as you can see, so this is running through the counter on and off, and once that's done, it will return back to the part we were in the program at the top. That's just turning the light on and off, so hopefully that's not too confusing. So next we come back to here, so that's done with the new position and the lights. Now we need to check if the player is below a space when the light is on. So it will get the A string, find out which level you're on and where the character is, +1, so below what the A string is, and if where the character is below a blank in the A string and the light is on, so light is set to 1, then we go to 240, which means you've been seen because you're in a blank area when the light is on. So at this position on the screen, it will set the B string to you have been seen, and it will print that using that subroutine, you have been seen. It will then work out your score, so it will print you have scored, and it will set the score to what the level is, -1 plus what the score counter is, divided by your timer, times by 100. So this is just a sum working out what your score is, really. So it's using your level, your score and your timer to work out a score for you. It will then ask you if you want to play again, so it will print another go, yes or no, and it's looking for an input which will set to this C string value. If you put Y and then press return, it will then run the program again. If you put anything else apart from this Y, it will just say bye and stop the program, and that will be the end of the game. However, if we go back up to where it's checking if you are in that blank area underneath the A string, so it makes to see if you are in the light. If this has not happened, it will skip past this bit, and it's saying if the flag is not 2, then look for another key press. it's asking if you've made it to the end of the level and back to the start, which sets the flag to 2. It'll then jump up to line 80, which is up here, and ask you to put in another key, and it will run through the whole program again. However, if the flag is 2, then it will load the next line in the level. So it will get what the level is at the moment, level 1, and it'll plus 1 to it, so it then set it to level 2. So when it runs through the whole program again, it will print that line, but it will print the level 2 line instead. However, if the level gets to level 8, which gets passed because there's only 7 data inputs, if it gets to level 8, it will set that level back to 7 and just repeat level 7 over and over again. So there's only 7 levels in the game, so that just makes sure that you can't go over that value. And then it will go back to line 30, where it prints out the whole level again and starts it all again. And that is it. Now, to me that seems quite confusing. I don't know if I've explained that completely correctly or clearly. Hopefully I have, because this did take me quite a while to work all this out. I mean, I was reading through the program in the book, and in my head I can work it all out pretty quickly, but to try and explain it in a video is quite hard. So if there's anything there you're not too sure about, just let me know. Let me know what you think about this base in C program. Does this make it easier for me to explain it, or do you prefer the fuse and just scrolling up and down through the code? And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to thumb up the video if you like it, and do leave comments, because I do love the feedback, good or bad, just to let me know how I can improve this series. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll do another video soon. Cheers.